I walked into my parents' house with a folder full of receipts and a police report, then calmly told them, "From now on, everything you want comes with a bill." My name is Delaney Moore, and last Friday I walked into a restaurant where my name was on the reservation, but I wasn't on the guest list. I had booked the private room at Weatherby and Sons, a cozy, overpriced bistro in downtown St. Paul where the light is always dim and the servers pretend to forget their own names. I paid $2,170 up front, arranged place cards with handwritten notes, and even ordered a custom dessert tower that spelled out "More Family Forever." Yeah, I was that naive. The plan was to surprise my parents, my sister Kendall, and the extended family with a reunion dinner. A thank you, maybe. Or maybe I was trying to buy something I never really had from them, a place. When I pulled into the gravel lot at 6:57 p.m., something already felt off. It was too quiet. No clunky laugh from Uncle Troy, no echo of Kendall's voice complaining about traffic. I thought maybe I was early. But I wasn't. The hostess didn't even blink when I said, "More party, reservation at 7. She tapped on her iPad, looked back up, and said, "That party came in last night, Thursday." I blinked, laughed awkwardly. "No, that can't be right. I made the reservation. I double confirmed the date." She tilted her head. "I'm just telling you what's on the log. They brought balloons, a cake, someone played the guitar." I don't remember walking out. I remember the sidewalk being uneven and my throat being dry. I sat in my car for a long time, phone in hand, rereading the last message from my mom. "Can't wait to see you Friday, sweetie." It was still there, time-stamped, read, confirmed. They had changed the date, and they hadn't told me on purpose. I didn't drive home. I didn't even turn the key in the ignition. I just sat there with the kind of stillness that makes you feel like the car is holding its breath too. My hands weren't shaking from cold. It wasn't rage either. It was something worse. That creeping clarity that hits when the lie you've told yourself your whole life finally stops working. I stared at the last text from my mom. "Can't wait to see you Friday." She had even added a heart, the kind of emoji she only sends when she wants something or when she's pretending. I scrolled up. There were 13 messages from me confirming plans, asking about food preferences, coordinating rides, even offering to book hotel rooms for out-of-town cousins. Not a single reply. No corrections. No, "Hey Lane, we changed it to Thursday. Hope you can still come." Nothing. They knew. All of them. They had a reunion, a full dinner, my dinner, without me. And they'd smiled for photos, toasted, passed around gluten-free rolls, and clinked glasses while probably laughing about how I'd overplanned again. And when I didn't show up for the event I paid for, they just left me out, like I was the mistake, like I was the one who got it wrong. And that wasn't even the part that broke me. It was that they didn't even bother to lie. No, "We thought you knew." No fake emergency. No awkward rushed apology. Just silence. Then a text from Kendall, hours later. "We saved you a plate. Want us to drop it off?" As if leftovers were a bandage for betrayal. I didn't answer. I just locked my phone, leaned my head against the window, and stared at the brick wall next to the restaurant's patio, where fairy lights twinkled above strangers having a better night. I thought about all the years I spent being their fixer, the one who sent rent money at midnight, who made spreadsheets for Thanksgiving shopping lists, who created an entire Moore family digital archive on Google Drive that no one ever opened. I used to think if I just tried harder, if I organized well enough, showed up enough, paid enough, they'd eventually make space for me in the picture. Turns out, they'd already photoshopped me out. They didn't forget me. They excluded me. because I was too useful to treat as family and too inconvenient to invite as a person. Somewhere in that quiet parking lot, with the smell of rosemary focaccia leaking from the back entrance, I realized something ugly. They loved what I gave them. They just never loved me. I didn't cry. I calculated. I pulled out the folded receipt from the glove box, just the deposit copy, $1,875.58. I scribbled quick numbers in the margin: 18 guests, upgraded entree, vegan substitutions, sparkling cider, gratuity at 22%. The total was nearly $2,400. They had a great time. I paid for it. And they offered me a plate of leftovers like a dog waiting at the door. That was the moment the air changed. Not dramatically, not like a storm, but like a door quietly shutting from the inside. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. And when you reach that kind of done, deep, cellular level done, it doesn't make you louder. It makes you clear. The next morning, I didn't wake up so much as I unplugged from a version of myself. The kind of version that tells you to keep peace at the cost of your dignity. That version was efficient, helpful, well-behaved, and, most of all, silent. She'd swallowed 1,000 small betrayals for the sake of keeping the family close. I wasn't her anymore. At 6:02 a.m., I was sitting on my kitchen floor, legs crossed, laptop open, going through my Venmo history. Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed reality. I needed to see it, not just feel it. Every transaction, every unpaid loan, every emergency wire transfer that became a black hole. There it was. $600 for Kendall's rent. $320 for her emergency dental visit that turned out to be lip fillers, $850 to help Dad get caught up on taxes, which he used for a weekend golf tournament in Scottsdale, $400 for Mom's birthday cruise when she said Dad forgot again, even though I later found their matching Instagram photos at sea. Each time, I had told myself the same thing. It's what family does. And each time, they had told themselves something else. She's a safety net. She'll always catch us. They were right. I always had. Until now. That afternoon, I opened a Word doc and titled it Undocumented Generosity. Not poetic, I know, but it felt honest. I listed every transaction I could remember from the past 5 years. By hour 2, I was formatting it by recipient and tagging each with the original excuse. Kendall Moore, 23 entries. Linda Moore, Mom, 14. Gerald Moore, 9. Miscellaneous cousins, 6. I started attaching receipts, screenshots, emails, even voice notes from Kendall asking for money just this once. The voice notes were always dramatic. Lane, I know I screwed up, but if I get evicted, I'll literally die. Or, I'm trying, okay? But therapy is expensive and I can't think straight without Adderall. And then 3 days later, a selfie of her poolside with a bottle of rosé and the caption, "Healing is a luxury." I know how this sounds, like I'm petty, keeping track, weaponizing kindness. But let me tell you something about women like me. We don't keep score out of spite. We keep score because no one else ever acknowledges the game. We keep score so we don't forget that the imbalance we feel has evidence. So when people say, "Why are you being dramatic?" we can answer with a spreadsheet. That's what this document was. My truth, line by line. And in writing it, I started remembering a night I tried hard to forget. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, about a year ago. I had flown in for Thanksgiving early to help Mom prep the house. Kendall was already there, draped over the guest couch like royalty in recovery, watching reality TV and texting 3 people at once. I'd gone downstairs for water, barefoot and quiet. That's when I heard them. "Mom, she's always making everything about her. Just because she pays for stuff doesn't mean she owns us. Kendall. Right? She's obsessed with being the martyr, like no one asked her to step in. Dad, chuckling. Let her. She doesn't have kids, doesn't have a husband. What else is she gonna do? I froze behind the wall. That cold, bone-deep freeze where you can't decide whether to burst into the room or disappear through the floor. They didn't know I was there. Or maybe they did. The next morning, Mom made blueberry pancakes like always. No one mentioned it, and I smiled through the meal because that's what I did. I got in the car and drove home early, telling myself I was just being sensitive, that I misunderstood. But I hadn't. They had said exactly what they meant, and I had heard them all. It was only now, sitting in my apartment, bathed in laptop glow and resentment, that I finally let that memory fully land. I remembered my own silence at that table, how I'd asked Kendall just 2 weeks later if she needed help with her car insurance, because part of me still believed that if I just kept showing up, they'd eventually see me. Now I saw them, clearly. They didn't just undervalue me, they resented me for being useful. They hated that I made their messes look bad, that I showed up with answers when all they wanted was excuses, that I was proof they could do better, but chose not to. Around 10 p.m. that same day, I opened the family group chat. Not the side texts, not the private threads that excluded me, the main chat, the one labeled More Strong, with a photo of us from 2009, all wearing matching flannel at Lake Arrowhead. I typed 12 words. I'll be at Mom's at 7 p.m. tomorrow. I have something for everyone. That was it. No emojis, no explanations. Kendall left it on read. Mom hearted the message like I'd just sent her a Pinterest quote. Dad didn't respond at all. Of course they didn't ask what I was bringing. They never asked anything when it came to me. They just assumed I'd bring what was needed. This time, I was. Just not in the way they expected. At 6:58 p.m., I pulled into the same driveway I used to run up barefoot as a kid, holding melting popsicles and scraped knees. This time, my hands weren't full of sugar or bandages. They were full of receipts. Through the living room window, I could see silhouettes shifting behind sheer curtains. Mom pacing. Kendall curled up on the couch in a hoodie too expensive to be borrowed. Dad sunk in his recliner, arms folded like furniture. I parked, exhaled once, and walked up to the front door like I was stepping into a courtroom, except no one here would admit guilt. The door creaked open before I knocked. "Hi, honey," Mom said, her voice sweet and brittle like old candy. "We weren't sure if you were still upset." I didn't answer. I stepped inside. The house smelled like lavender and garlic, the kind of weird combo Mom always insisted was cozy. For once, the kitchen was clean. No chaos, no casserole burning in the oven. It was like they were expecting company, which I suppose they were. "I brought something," I said, sitting on the edge of the coffee table. I pulled a thick white envelope from my tote bag and placed it down in front of them like a dealer laying down the final hand. Kendall squinted. "What's that?" "A bill." Dad scoffed. "You're joking." "I'm not." Mom's smile tightened, but her eyes didn't move. "Are you seriously trying to make us pay you back?" "No," I said, voice calm. "I'm giving you the option. Because from this point on, anything you want from me comes with an invoice." The room went still. Kendall lowered her phone. "Delaney," Dad began, voice dropping into that paternal warning tone, "you need to drop this attitude. We're family." "Are we?" I asked. Silence again. "Because family doesn't host a dinner without you, doesn't use your name to open credit cards, doesn't mock you behind your back and then offer you leftovers." Kendall rolled her eyes. No one made you do anything, Lane. You chose to pay for stuff. That's on you. That's when it cracked. Not in anger, not in volume, in truth. I stood up, reached into my bag, pulled out a black folder, thick and creased at the corners. I opened it and flipped the pages, neatly printed records, labeled, dated, itemized. Let's talk about what I chose to pay for, I said. No one made me pay your rent for a year and a half, or your failed tuition deposit for massage therapy school, or your botched emergency dental visit that turned into lip fillers. Kendall went pale. I turned to Mom. No one made me pay your back property taxes when Dad forgot the deadline, or cover your birthday cruise, or send you $200 every other week when you said your knees hurt too much to stand and shop. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Then I faced Dad. No one made me refill the joint account when you overdrafted trying to fund your fantasy football league, or pay the HVAC bill that mysteriously never made it to the mailbox. Watch it, Dad growled. I'm just getting started. I dropped a printed screenshot on the table, then another, then another. Bank transfer confirmations, Venmo notes, email receipts, a voicemail transcript. Then finally, a letterhead. From my bank, stamped, signed. The identity theft report, I said, filed yesterday. Credit card opened under my name. Charges shipped to this address. Kendall's jaw dropped. I didn't raise my voice. I've already spoken to Detective Grant. There's enough evidence to pursue charges, including Kendall's Instagram post holding the same phone purchased on the card 3 days after it was activated. In the caption she wrote, and I quote, "Treating myself, thanks universe, naka." Mom gasped. Kendall bolted upright. You're seriously doing this over a stupid card? No, I said, locking eyes with her. I'm doing this because for the first time in my life, I can. The silence wasn't angry. It was afraid. They didn't expect me to break character. They expected the fixer, the sponsor, the older sister who'd always quietly cover the gap and call it love. But I wasn't her anymore. You really want to send your sister to jail over this? Dad said, rising from his recliner. No, I replied, but I want her to know she doesn't get to hide behind the word family anymore. From the folder, I pulled the signed police report and placed it gently on the table. I watched Mom's hands tremble. I submitted this yesterday. It's already on file. You're destroying this family, Mom said, voice cracking. No, I said, I'm refusing to let it keep destroying me. That was when something strange happened. No one yelled, no one begged, no one called me dramatic or ungrateful or cold. They just looked at me like I had stepped out of a role they needed me to play, and I had. I reached for my folder. I turned to walk toward the door. But just before I reached it, a quiet voice rose behind me. Wait, I turned. It was Elliot Monroe, my cousin, the quiet one, the one who never posted, never commented, never asked for anything. I'd like to pay my share, he said, for the dinner. Everyone turned to him. He cleared his throat. It's only fair. I knew about the date change. I was there when they joked about not telling you. His eyes met mine. I didn't say anything. I'm sorry. And for the first time that night, maybe the first time in years, I smiled. Thank you, I said. Then I walked out. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped playing a game I never agreed to. The next morning, at 8:17 a.m., my phone rang. Private number. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, still in the clothes I wore to the confrontation, folder beside me like a sleeping animal. I hesitated, half expecting a scam call, half expecting a storm. Hello, I answered. Is this Delaney Moore? A male voice asked. Yes. This is Officer Grant from the St. Paul Police Department. We're following up on a report of identity theft and unauthorized credit card use. The billing address is listed as your parents' residence. I didn't flinch. Yes, I said, that's correct. We'll be stopping by today to speak with the household. You're not required to be present, just letting you know. Do you need anything from us at this point? No, sir, I replied. You've done your part. I'm letting go of mine. He hung up. And I just sat there, not panicking, not pacing, not crying, just still. For once, I didn't feel dread about the doorbell ringing. For once, I wasn't the one cleaning up the mess. By noon, the calls started. Voicemails, texts, long blocks of guilt laced with desperation. Mom's voicemail came first. Her voice was tight, performed panic. Delaney, they came. The police, this morning. I was still in my robe. Dad hadn't even had his coffee. 2 officers. They asked to speak with all of us. They said there was a credit card under your name. Said the charges matched this address. They asked to look at Kendall's phone. She exhaled shakily. That's when the story started to fall apart. I could picture it. Kendall stammering, Mom's lipstick half finished, Dad folding his arms like silence would win him something. Kendall tried to leave, said she was late for work. The officers asked her to sit back down. She got fidgety. Then she said it wasn't fraud, that you always help, that she thought you wouldn't care. Then the kicker. They checked her messages. One text to a friend said, "Used Ratch's info for the spa. She's too uptight to notice. Whatever." She paused again. They said it showed intent, that it wasn't just theft, it was planned. They're asking about formal charges. Please call me. I didn't. Later that night, another call came in. Detective Hanley, Officer Grant's colleague. Miss Moore, we have enough to move forward. Are you interested in pressing charges? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I opened my laptop and scrolled through the texts flooding in. From Mom, "We can fix this. Just talk to us." From Dad, "You're going to ruin your sister's life over a card?" From Kendall, "You selfish bitch. I'll lose everything. You really want that?" And for the first time, I realized no one cared when I was losing pieces of myself. Not when I maxed out my savings to save their house. Not when I sat in my apartment crying over credit scores, wondering how I'd explain a mysterious $7,200 debt to my mortgage lender. Not when they posted photos of family dinners and vacations I paid for but wasn't invited to. They only cared now because I made it real. I waited a full 24 hours before calling Detective Hanley back. "For now," I said, "pause the formal charges, but I want it on record. If she ever touches anything with my name again, I want her charged immediately." He agreed. And just like that, the weight shifted. Not because they apologized, not because they changed, but because I finally stopped carrying it. 3 days later, Mom called again. This time, her voice was soft, too soft, that calculated kind of gentle she always used when she was trying to sell you forgiveness, as if it were her gift to give. "If you really want to fix things," she said, "come to the house. Let's talk, face to face." Against my better judgment, and out of some stubborn curiosity, I went. They were all there. Kendall on the couch, cocooned in a blanket like a victim of a crime she committed. Dad by the window, arms crossed so tightly his forearms were shaking. Mom pacing with a mug she hadn't sipped from. I stood in the doorway for a beat before sitting across from them. "We just want to heal," Mom began, placing her mug down like it was a peace offering. "We know you're hurt, but this is tearing the family apart." "No," I said, voice even. "Kendall did that, when she decided I was easier to use than include." Kendall didn't look up. Her face was puffy. She sniffled. "I didn't think you'd actually go to the cops," she muttered. "Who does that?" I tilted my head. "Someone who's been pushed far enough." Mom reached out. Her hand grazed mine. We'll pay it back. You don't need the police. We can keep this between us. I pulled my hand away. Funny, I said. You didn't offer that before they showed up. She flinched. Her face said it all. She still didn't understand. I wasn't playing the role anymore. Then Dad finally spoke. You're not perfect either, Delaney. You think this makes you some kind of hero? I looked him in the eye. No, I said. It makes me free. I stood. This time, no one stopped me. No one raised their voice. No one begged. The silence behind me wasn't peace. It was resignation. And it wasn't mine anymore. I walked out of the house I grew up in without looking back. And when the door closed behind me, it didn't feel like leaving. It felt like release. 2 weeks later, I was gone. I signed a lease on a second-story unit in a quiet Minnesota town where the only noise came from birds, wind, and the occasional dog who hated squirrels. It wasn't fancy. It had creaky floors and thin walls, but the windows were wide and clean, and the light came in like it was supposed to. No filters, no performance. I didn't tell anyone my forwarding address. I didn't make a big announcement. I didn't change my number. I just stopped answering when it rang. The first weekend, I spent assembling flat-pack furniture, sipping strong coffee, and sitting in silence that wasn't waiting to be broken. I didn't feel lonely. I felt unburdened. That was new. 3 weeks in, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name written in a hand I recognized but hadn't seen often. Elliot. Inside was a short note, folded neatly. I don't expect you to forgive me, but thank you for doing what I never had the courage to. And behind it, a check. Half the dinner cost, down to the cent. I didn't cash it. I didn't need to. He didn't owe me anything. But he saw it. That was enough. The rest of them? I never heard from them again. Not for Christmas. Not when Dad had surgery. Not when Kendall lost her job. I found out from a mutual cousin's Facebook post. And that silence, the same one that used to feel like punishment, now felt like air. No weight. No guilt. No expectations hiding behind thin smiles and family slogans. Just space. A few weeks ago, I ran into someone from back home at a grocery store. Small town, word travels fast. She stared at me for a long second before blurting, "Wait, aren't you Kendall's sister?" I smiled without thinking. "No," I said, calm and clear, and I walked away. Because when you finally choose peace over apology, when you finally choose yourself over performance, you don't owe anyone a reason. Just breathe.